In this lesson, we are going to set the inverts of our pipe. Now, if you don't know what an invert is, remember you have your pipe, and the invert is the elevation of the pipe on the inside right here. Let's pretend this is the thickness of the pipe. So this is the invert, and up here, this is known as the obvert. So that's invert and obvert. So what I'm going to do, I want to maintain 1.2 meters cover on my pipe. So I'm going to click on this first pipe, right click, click pipe properties. Now I want the 1% slope. I think this one is already done, but let's say you came in here, and the first thing I'm going to look at is I have minimum cover 1.4. So I'm going to adjust the start elevation to, let's adjust it to 299, and I want to keep 1%. Notice now my pipe is above the ground, it's in negative cover. So looking at that, I'm going to reduce it to 297, and then holding the start. So I've inserted the start elevation. Now I'm holding the start and I click apply. Now I have a minimum cover of 1.0 meters. So I want 1.2 minimum. So I'm going to change the start elevation, reduce it by 0.2. And now I have minimum cover 1.2. So click OK. So I'm going to do the same for this. Like on pipe properties, the invert is going to be around the same. I'm going to keep 1% slope, and I have 1.2 cover. Remember, I don't want to go too deep with these pipes either. If you start off with 2 meters deep, remember your pipe is getting deeper and deeper as you go along. So this is okay. So what I did was I put in the start elevation, and then I changed the slope to -1% and hit apply. And I calculated the end invert elevation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this structure. So we've established the elevation at the starting invert and set a grade down at 1%, and we've done the same for this pipe. So the inverts are calculated for these two pipes. Now I'm going to click on this structure, right click, click structure properties, come into connected pipes. So if you click on, see we have an invert elevation column. So here we're looking at the invert connected to the structure. So that end invert is 296.693, 296.693, 692. So we can make the starting one, let's say 0.1 meter but lower. 296, 6.593. 296.593. So what I did there, when I clicked on this structure, I right click and clicked on structure properties. So I have this column showing all the connected inverts, and it's giving me the invert of the pipe right here, and right here. So remember, I set these first two pipes, and we want this pipe downstream of the structure to be lower because we need to pick up that water. It needs to flow from here in here. So I made this invert right here, 0.1 meters lower. You don't always need to go that deep, but that's what I did. So this starting invert, when I say starting invert, I'm talking about the invert of the pipe right here. That is set now. So I'm going to come into pipe properties. The start invert is set, but it's going down at -5, almost -5%. I'm going to reduce that to 1%. So that mightn't be steep enough, so let's go -3% because I know the road grade is steep there. And if I go what if I go -2.5, hit apply, Let's go -2. Let's go -2.2. So what I'm doing is I'm updating the slope and looking at my minimum cover. So I have 1.3 meters and I'm going to hit OK. So same for these. Remember, this is the starting leg. I just need 1.2 meters cover. Let's change this to -1. Hit apply. So I have a minimum cover of almost 3 meters, so that's too deep. Let's change it to 295 starting invert and change the slope to -1. Say 295.3 -1% slope. 295.3, and that works. So I'm going to change this to 295.3 -1% slope. So I have this pipe, and this pipe, all the inverts at. Remember this one? I set the starting invert and went down 2.2%. So now I'm going to click on this pipe, this structure I mean. I'm going to hit structure properties. I'm going to move this dialog box a little so you can see what's going on. Click on this invert. We're looking at the end invert of that pipe close to the structure. So this is the invert I have not set. Because if you look, you can see it's on my plan view. This is the invert I haven't set. I've set these inverts and I know I have minimum cover. So this is the invert I haven't set. So of these three, I'm going to look which one is the deepest. 295.2. So I'm going to set this to be 295.109 and hit OK. So I've made this invert right here 0.1 meters lower than the lowest of these three. Because remember, the pipe downstream needs to be lower. So if I come in here and set a slope of -2, I'm saying -2. Generally, you can go minimum 0.5, let's say generally 0.5% in a pipe. You don't want your pipe to be flat because you need any water in there to flow. So I have a minimum cover of 1.2, so that's okay. I'm going to click on this pipe, click pipe properties. I have 3 meters covered, so I'm going to raise this to 294. The starting invert I've changed, and I'm going to change the pipe slope to -1%. 294.4. This one. I have 1.2 meters cover. So the inverts on these two pipes are set. Now I'm going to click on this structure, right click, click structure properties. I'm going to move my dialog box over here. I'm looking at the invert column again. So I've clicked on this row. I've set that pipe. Notice how once I click this row, the pipe is selected in plan view. I have set the inverts in this pipe. So now I'm going to look at the lowest invert, which is this one. And I'm going to set my downstream starting invert to 294.177, 0.1 meters lower. And I'm going to come in here, pipe properties. Notice I set the start invert, but I haven't set the end invert yet. So what if I go down -1%? I could go -1 is okay, so I'm going to hit apply and click OK. So what I'm looking at again, I want to point out, we set the starting invert, and then I just set a grade of let's say I go -0.5. I still have 1.2 meters cover, but if I set it to -1%, which is a steeper slope, I'll have more flow in my pipe. So I'm going to leave at 1%. So basically here you can see minimum cover is 1.35 meters. So that pipe is 1.35 meters. There's 1.35 meters cover on that pipe. From the top barrel of the barrel up to the ground, we have 1.5%. 1.35%. So I've set this invert. Remember, I set the start. And by setting the slope down, I've set this invert right here. So this pipe invert is set now. I'm going to click on this structure, right click, click structure properties. So this is the pipe I've set. So 293, we can change this invert to be 293.835, 0.1 meters below. Hit apply. The reason I'm doing that is because you want to drop across your manhole. And I can change this to properties minus 2%. So I know from my grading that I have surface all the way covering around here. In fact, let's turn on the surface. If I turn on that surface, here I don't have this style for 0.1 meters contour set up, so I'm going to click on the surface, click surface properties. I'm going to make 0.1, 0.1, and 0.2 meter contours. Change the contour interval to be 0.1, 0.2. Click OK. So you can see that I'm matching to existing ground right here. So I set all these inverts. Now I'm going to click on surfaces, add surface labels, spot elevation, right click. I want to check the existing ground elevation, 293.83. 293.83. So if you can see my pipe properties, 293, the end invert 293.65, the end invert is lower than existing ground. So I want to make my invert above existing ground or matching. Let's say 29. Let's make my end invert 293.85 and hit apply. So notice now I don't have a slope on my pipe properties. I've set the end invert. I'm going to hold the end this time and click OK. So I've set 0.5. I'm holding this end. I've set that and went up 0.5%. I did that by putting 0.5% in the pipe slope hold end column. Now we're going to go back in here, click structure properties. So 293.995. What happens if I change this to 293.995? Apply. Hit OK. We have 0.75% slope on that pipe. And that's okay. We still have minimum cover. So there you have the invert set on your pipe. I'm going to click on the surface, turn it off right now, set it to no display. One more thing I want to show you, I can delete the spot elevation. If you click on surfaces on the menu bar, add surface labels. I've created in here, so the feature we want to label is pipe network. And I've created an invert start label. So invert start. So I set it to single part plan, and you can click on your pipe, and that is your invert start. Just going to show you on a couple of pipes right now. So this is the invert start. What you do is you add the invert start label, and then you slide it back up to where the invert is starting. That means you might have to move around the labels a little bit. So I've added invert start here. You can drag it off a little. An invert start here. Now I'm going to add an invert end label. It's best to sort of do this slowly, because you can't really tell the difference between invert start and invert end. So that's why you just have to pay attention for a couple of minutes while you're adding the labels. You could go into the label style and make one of them red, one of them green. Or you could even add invert start if you wanted in text, but there'd be a lot of text on your label then. So I've added the invert start. I'm going to add invert end to here, slide it down to the end. Do the same for here. Slide that invert end label down there. And you've all your invert. You can also do the same for your catch basin leads if you want to. But I haven't done it right now. Additionally, in here you'll notice I have a name and top structure label style, so you can add it to, let's say, here. I can delete this one, the name only, and add this. You have the name of the structure and the top of the structure. So if I add spot elevation to my FG, it should match that top 295.66. Should match that this elevation here, the rim elevation. So I'm going to match this one, all my other structure labels. And do the same for these one. And you might have to move it up here, down here, wherever you think. So also I have one remaining right here. You can do the same for the catch basins if you want, to show the rim elevation on the structure. So download the lesson for yourself and practice what we've done in this lesson.